Fred, the Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, who I like, but I think he also likes to poke the bear. He said that Nico Iamaleava has. There have been whispers that he hasn't lived up to his billing. I'm paraphrasing. What in the world could he have done in 2 months to give you any indication, good or bad, that he hasn't or has lived up to his billing? What could he have done? They haven't even had spring camp yet.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that part out myself because you just got there. I mean, they've recruited this kid and he's been highly publicized. I don't know if that's the case of maybe the kid is trying to figure out how to be a college athlete. And I think he's hanging out with the right guy. Joe Milton is a guy who's, a leader, and he's going to have to teach him how to be one. That's one of the things as a freshman when you come in, the speed of the game is different. The way you do things are different. Spring workouts, completely different than what they'll be like in the summer and what they'll be like during the football season. And I think for him, it's something that he hasn't seen yet. So even though he's been on campus, 3 months, it takes a few minutes to get it together. I mean, it takes you as a freshman. I came in early, myself and Al Wilson. There was 4 of us back then came in early. Myself, Al Wilson, Spencer Riley, and a guy by the name of Mitch Baker. Mitch Baker ended up transferring to Ole Miss. But it took us a minute to get acclimated to what it was like to be a college athlete because it is completely different than what you've ever done in high school. And I don't care if you work out with the best quarterback guru, the best strength and training guy you think from high school. When you get to college, it's different. And you're competing. You're not watching, you're competing. So that may be the case, but I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really, really good from what I hear. Go ahead, Caleb.
Fred, sticking with that, I want to go a trip back down memory lane. You were obviously one of the hard hitters on the team in the mid-'90s. Was there ever a time where there was a guy who may have been a little bit too full of himself early in spring practice and you and Al maybe had to humble him with a rough tackle?
There was a few. There's a few guys that came through that had a little bit more mouth than what they should have. And that was one of the things that they used to tell us that. This is funny. You say a trip down memory lane. I'm going to show you my age. I'm going to do what Dave does. I'm going to do the Dave Hooker today and put my glasses on.
Oh, my God.
A trip down memory lane. I remember a few guys that were, like that. Brian Darden came in and he did the same thing. Brian was a really good football player. Had Brian been in any other football school, I think he could have been a superstar. He had all the intangibles. He was good size, good strength, speed, agility. Brian came in talking trash. He came in talking trash to the older guys. And it was just one of those things where you didn't do that at UT. We had these rules, like if you were only a freshman, you didn't have enough hours to talk, meaning, you have to take 15 hours and pass 15 hours every year, right? 18 hours. If you haven't passed a class, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. Don't talk any trash. None of that. Just be humble and take care of business. Don't talk trash, though. Cedric Wilson was one of those guys that came in that way. And, he lived up to the billing. I mean, he talked trash still to this day. I think every morning he wake up talking trash to himself in the mirror. But there's a lot of guys that came in that, with that type of attitude, but you got humbled really quick. And that was one thing that we were proud of ourselves on. Hey, man, you don't have enough hours. Be quiet. Don't even laugh. Don't even laugh at jokes. Be quiet. Just pay attention, understand what's going on around you. And once you make it to be a sophomore, then you have, you got a little bit more room to say something, to laugh at jokes and crack jokes. But don't do that before time, because if you do, somebody's going to step to you and make sure you understand that you're just a freshman, and that's it.
What about a guy like Jamal Lewis, who is so physically gifted? He wasn't like a freshman. Was he allowed to laugh at jokes?
Jamal came in with the same rules we all came in with.
Okay.
And he abided by those same rules, just like everyone else did. If you didn't abide by those rules, man, you better be very special. You hear me? Because we look at it this way. There are not a whole lot of freshmen that came in and did a lot. Jamal Lewis is an anomaly. Peyton Manning came in as a freshman and wasn't Peyton Manning, if that makes any sense. You understand what I'm saying? So when you come in as a freshman, man, hey, listen, watch, listen, learn. Keep your eyes open. And even if you balling out, guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to talk about yourself, and you're going to do all the things we say that are our team rules, period. Because if not, the offensive lineman might open up that hole for us to blitz through to knock you out. Or, you know what I mean? Or we might just put you out there with Cozy Coleman and say, hey, Cozy, go get it. I mean,
yes,
that's the name of the game. That's how you do this. I mean, what it did was it gave us a hierarchy, meaning that every guy on the team had someone they had to look up to. Until you made it to the top of the heap to be the leader, you still got to work. That's it.
Yep, absolutely. Smash that like button. Fred joins us each and every week, and we love visiting with him. Hit the like button, opens us up to more viewers. And if you haven't subscribed by now, you're crazy. You mentioned Joe Milton. Rebecca says, I think Joe's going to surprise everybody. It's time to light it up. I'm excited to see Nico, but he needs time to develop. He'll see the field some, but I don't think he'll start this year. You kind of alluded to Joe there. I know you still hear a lot of stuff from around the program.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to predict, and I know it's early, March is way early. We haven't even seen spring camp, but how would you predict this fall camp unfolds?
From the quarterback position, I'm going to think that coming out of it, going into it and coming out of it, I think Joe Milton is going to be your guy. I mean, it's his job to lose. And I don't think he's done anything to lose it in the last few, he did a great job in beating Clemson in the Orange Bowl without having some of the key guys. You didn't have Tillman, you didn't have Hyatt, and you still lit it up with the guys, Squirrel White and those guys. I look at our team and I say, man, I think we can move forward with what we have already. But I'm never going to say that a freshman can't come in and do the job. The game has changed some. Back in the day, Jamal Lewis was the only freshman that came in and did anything significantly for us. But that time has changed. These guys are coming in a little bit more prepared and those type of things. But I see Nico being the backup until otherwise. And meaning otherwise, this is the SEC. Injuries happen. Joe got his start this year because of an injury. Things like that happen. And I'm hoping that those things don't happen. But if he stays healthy the entire year, it would be great for us to be able to have Nico sit on the bench and learn the entire offense and do those type of things. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think his arm talent puts him in the conversation regardless. But I do see that most of the guys on the team have one thing in common. They all respect Joe Milton. And that's one thing you can't take away from any football team. I've said this years ago. I'll say it again today. We had Casey Clausen's brother that played quarterback at Tennessee. Rick Clausen. When Rick came in at UT, he had the ear and the eyes of every player on that football team, and everybody respected him. He brought us back from a few wins, and then he didn't start the next week. I thought that broke the team apart. I didn't think not that Eric Ainge wasn't a good quarterback. It was just that he just had the leadership ability at that time. And sometimes you got to go with your leader. And you look at the same thing happened with Major Applewhite at Texas when they brought in Phil Simms' Same thing happened with them. So you look at how those things make a difference. It's also sometimes you got to do what's best for your team, and not just what's best for to sell tickets and highlights and those type of things. And I think we got a coach though that understands that. I think Josh Heupel does understand. He understands all those things. He's going to put the best guy on the football field that's going to win games. Period. Regardless of what position it is. I've seen that with what happened with a lot of things last year. If you're not up to par, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not handling team rules, guess what? You won't be playing this week. And I'm proud to say that I got a coach that'll do that nowadays. Because some guys will just put a guy on the football field just because he can play. No, it's a little bit more than that. It's integrity, character, those type of things, and leadership ability. And if you're a quarterback, you have to have those abilities in order to be able to play at this level.
By the way, Rick Clausen, the only player in my professional career that declined to answer a question from me during a press conference. Said, it went right like this,
what was the question? What was the question,
Dave? It was easy. It was just like, how'd the game go or something? And he looked at Bud and he goes, Bud, I told you I'm not going to answer questions from him anymore. And I was like, okie dokie. It would have been nice if somebody would have told me.
Oh man,
It's a little miscommunication
Hilarious.
there.
Fred, sticking with the quarterback thing, it's funny because we've compared them a lot when talking with you in the past, but it seems one of the reasons that Joe Milton, I wonder if this had anything to do with it, why the team respects him so much, the fact that he decided to stay after losing his starting job. And I think back to 1997 when Peyton Manning said he's coming back for a senior year and the whole team celebrates, but it's like, T. Martin in his mind is like, man, I wish he was going to the NFL draft so I could start. But how much did it resonate with you guys that T. Martin still decided to stay, learn under Peyton for a year, and really, it seemed like by the time he was ready to start, he had the full respect of everybody on the team the next year.
Oh, absolutely. He had the respect. I don't know how much it correlates, though. It was a different situation. I mean, that was Peyton Manning. I mean, to say the backup quarterback to Peyton Manning is a lot different, in my opinion. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, And to be in the same room with him, you do know that you're going to learn a lot. And, yeah, T could have left and went to other places and played. He could have actually went to another school before coming to Tennessee and played early. So we do respect T for that, but we also knew what we had in Peyton Manning as well. And this is a little bit different situation in the sense of, I think Joe Milton understood that, okay, I did get beat out, but I did just transfer from a major school where I started. I came here, I did lose my job, but I lost my job to a better guy. Didn't mean that I wasn't good. He just happened to have what was clicking at that time. It takes a lot of character and integrity to be able to do that and say, hey, you know what? I can get better. I do need to get better. When you watch film, the eye in the sky does not lie. If you're throwing guys by 15 yards, hey, man, you understand something different about yourself. It takes a different type of character to be able to do so. And I think that's what the guys on the team respect about him. He's a workout warrior. That's one of the things that everyone says about him. He's going to always be around and lead, and he's always encouraging other guys. And it's hard to not respect that. You know what I mean? It's hard to not respect that. That's something that you don't get from everyone. You don't get that from guys who've lost their position more times than anything. And in this situation, T didn't lose a position. He was behind Peyton Manning. He knew that.
Yeah, and he came to Tennessee and was willing to sit that time because he wanted to compete with the best. I remember talking to him about that and talking to you about that. The thing that's interesting to me about Joe Milton when I talk to players about Joe Milton is the exact same thing that you just pointed out. It was that they have that respect for him already. So if my prediction is correct that Nico will take over at some point in the fall, and it may not be, I've got a lot of predictions that aren't correct. But if it is correct, he's going to have to overcome that, because if it's close, I think Josh Heupel is going to go with Joe Milton partly because of the respect and admiration of his teammates.
Yes, and that's something that you don't just get by coming in as the top quarterback in the country or whatever, coming in as a freshman. You got to build that relationship with them. That's something you have to build over time. And, like I said, I think Joe Milton is a guy, he's earned the right to be able to be the starter day one from what he's done so far. Now, we still have a whole lot of spring left. We still have a whole lot of summer left. So, barring anything else, hopefully there's no injuries. Hopefully there's, no other things going on. That's where you see where your leader's going to be. I like Joe. I think Joe is a really good football player. One of my teammates has been pulling for Joe ever since Joe got here. Terry Fair, he says that he's the guy. He's the guy. And he does have that talent. He has an arm strength, man, that you don't find that type of arm strength every day. There's only a few people in this world that got arm strength like that. I mean, so I would love to see him do well. I hope he does well, because if he does well, I think we do well. I have seen freshmen take their team to the national championship. I have seen freshmen, do a really good job for the squads. We keep watching them every other year now. But I think what's best for us at this moment is we have a guy that's already in the system and been in the system for a few years, and we got a guy right behind him that's being groomed. Whether that maturation process it speeds up over the summer. We shall see. But I think right now he's, he hasn't seen live bullets in an SEC stadium yet. That's something that I can't wait for him to experience for himself, not being on the sideline, but being in the game. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing first.
Great, good stuff. Great stuff. Caleb.
Fred, moving on to the other side of the ball, we all know the issues with the secondary last year. I think one of the underrated losses for Tennessee is one of the players who wasn't invited to the combine, even though I thought he should have been, which was Trayvon Flowers at free safety. It seemed to me a lot of last year, and I want to know your thoughts on this as a former safety, that a lot of times free safeties sometimes have to sacrifice what's best for them individually for the team. If the cornerbacks aren't as good, they kind of have to cover for some mistakes. And I felt Trey Flowers did a lot of that last year. How would you convince a safety, whoever would take his spot, to reconcile that fact that, you might have to sacrifice a little bit of what's best for getting you noticed by NFL scouts because the cornerback play may not be at what it needs to be yet?
Well, I think it's more so you sacrifice for your team and not just for yourself. You're sacrificing for your team. Sometimes you have to do that. And that's the one thing. If you have, we always go back. I'm going to go back this time to what we had back then, the continuity we had for our team. Dwayne Goodrich, Steve Johnson, and Deion Grant. We knew what each other were going to do because we communicated. And we didn't just communicate in games, communicated in practice, in the meeting rooms. We communicated all the time. I can call Deion right now and say, well, I lose one robbery. He's going to tell him I got you over the top. All right? That means I got to play everything short. Steve Johnson, I can call him and say, man, 87. He's going to say, I'm jumping the curl. I got you over the top. That's, you know what I mean? Those are the things that we had that made us better. Yeah, we are sacrificing certain things. And I would tell Deion sometimes, hey, man, if it's run, I'm gone. If I read run, I'm out of here, okay? So that means you're by yourself. Dwayne Goodrich, same thing. You already know we're playing against the Georgia football team, and they got Jasper Saints, and they can run the ball. They can get downhill real fast. Offensive line was good. They were very talented. I would tell them every time, if I see that tight end blocked down, I am gone. So if it's bootleg, I need your help over the top because I'm not going to be there. I'm gone. So that was communication to make sure we understood what each other was doing, but it also gave you opportunity to make your own plays if you read something. That you just said, our rule was you just be right. That means learn what you have to learn, understand what you have to understand as far as what the other team is trying to do, as far as alignments, assignments, and those type of things. I feel like as a safety, your job is to help out your corners, but it's also to be able to have a conversation with them and say, hey, listen, let me know what you're thinking on each play, or let me know what you're thinking. We have our own signals. I knew when Dwayne was going to be jumping everything because he would give me his hand signal. And he would look at me to make sure he got my attention first to let me know, hey, listen, I'm going. That's it. Cool. I got you over the top. I will sacrifice. But I'm going to do my job first, then I'm going to help you. That's the way the game is supposed to be played anyway. It's called communication. You can't communicate, you can't play in the secondary.